Hi guys, so in this lesson we're going to refresh and recap and revise our knowledge about the colour wheel. We're going to complete a colour wheel palette worksheet, and then after that we are going to move on to skin tones and how to combine a range of different colours to create different skin tones, and also what are tints and tones and how to apply them. Materials you'll need for the first part of this activity is your colour wheel palette printout. You will also need red, blue and yellow paint, a paintbrush and a water pot. Hi guys, the main thing you need to remember when doing this activity is to start with the lightest colour, yellow, first. Make sure that you wash your brush in between mixing colours, because if you do not wash your brush then the colours can end up muddy and not the in colour that you intended to do. Make sure that you test the colour before you apply it to the handout and that you are happy with it before you apply. This activity is really a warm-up to remind yourselves of how to produce secondary colours, so that for the following activity we can go in with a little bit more advancement and work on tertiary colours, tints and tones. Materials that you will need for the second part of this lesson are a sketchbook, make sure it's nice plain paper, a selection of colours here. I've got black, white, brown, yellow and red. Now you can use watercolour, you can use acrylic or poster paint, the choice is up to you. A water pot and also two paintbrushes. Here I've just got a flat head and then a fine round tip. Make sure that you've got one small and one medium. And then lastly a glue stick, so that once your colour wheel palette handout is complete then you can glue that onto this side of your book. Okay, year 6, so the first thing we're going to do is have a little play with tints and tones. So a tint is a colour that has simply been mixed with white to make a lighter version of itself. So for example, let's take our flathead paintbrush with a dab of red paint, and let's do a line of red. I'm going to add a little bit more water just to, as you can see, the paintbrush has gone drier, so it creates these different sort of brush marks. So just make sure that you've got a nice smooth line of red paint. And then I'm going to wash out my brush a little and add a dollop of white to that. And as you can see, as you start mixing the white in with the red, it creates a tint, a pink, almost pink really. And then you could add a little bit more water just to blend the two together. So going from red into, there we go. So you can see we've gone from a deep red into a lighter tint, which is a pinky colour there. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go into what we call a tone. Now a tone is when you add a touch of black to your colour to create a darker shade, a tone. So I'm doing the same thing. I've done one line of red block colour. I'm going to wash my brush a little and I'm going to add a tiny bit of black, not too much. Now here you see I'm going directly on the paper. You can actually sort of mix it on a testing piece of paper if you like, if you're not too confident. Probably that's what I would advise you to do. So it's always good actually to have a testing piece of paper when you're painting, but just for my demonstration here I'm just showing you how to do it. So as you can see, we're going from sort of our red block colour into a deeper red because we've added a touch of black. So that is an example of a tint and a tone, and you could do that with any colour. You could do it with yellow. So if you wanted to add a line of yellow, you can do exactly the same thing. So to make a tint again, I'm just wiping my brush. Actually, that's an important practice to do when each time you wash your brush out, is to wipe it so that you don't have too much water, because if you have a lot of water on your paintbrush when you're painting, it really can affect the dilution of the color. So wiping it can really help you to control how much color is mixed when you're doing color mixing. Okay, and there we have a nice tint of yellow, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Touch of black. One tip I'd like to add and advise you guys when you are painting on your paper is to make sure there's always white space around the shapes and blocks that you are drawing, just to give a neat effect, and also that white space gives you areas where you can do your annotation when your painting has dried. Now we are going to move on to skin tones. Now, as you know, everybody around the world has completely different skin tones depending on where you are geographically and what your ethnicity is. So I'm going to start going from a lighter skin tone into a darker skin tone. Obviously there are many different shades and tones that I will have missed, but this is just to give you a loose idea of how to mix skin tones, the basics of it really. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of yellow, just using my flathead paintbrush again. To that I'm going to add a little corner, if you could see that, just a little corner of red. Now it's important to know when you're mixing the skin tones, you do it bit by bit, okay? Try not to add too much colour onto your paintbrush at one time, because you want to get a real feel for the skin tone that you're trying to achieve. So as we're going for a slightly lighter skin tone here, I'm adding a little bit of white. So the colours I've added here are white, yellow and red so far, and I'm going to just do a paintbrush stroke here. Now obviously there are lighter skin tones than this, there are darker skin tones. As I said, this is just really basic practice. So how to go a little bit darker here. What you can do for a skin tone, you can either add a touch of black or a touch of brown. I'm going to add just a little corner on my paintbrush of dark brown to that colour. And again, I'm just adding little touches of these range of colours until I reach the desired effect of skin tone that I'm looking for. And I think I'm quite happy with that. As you can see, I'm leaving a bit of white space between those two. You can see the difference already. And again, I'm going to add a bit more brown to that colour, make it a bit darker, and you will see a contrast between that. So that's getting darker still, just because I'm adding a brown. Now brown is a warm colour, okay, it's a warm tone, so if you really want that sort of warm skin tone, you can add that. Also you can, if you want it a bit warmer still, you can add a touch more pink to that. And if you are creating a skin tone and you want to draw a person in front of you, you can always just do a colour test, you know, like they do in the makeup shop. So you can actually test on your own skin or on that person's skin on their hand if they're not sensitive and it's washable, non-toxic paint. It's always a good indicator that you're on the right track to the right colour. Now I'm going to go darker still, so now to that colour that we've mixed, I'm going to add a touch of black to that to make a deeper tone. A bit more dark brown. And as you can see, I've actually kept the original colour in just one of these little palette sections here. I haven't really strayed from it. All we've done is gone from the lightest, and we're just bringing in darker tones as we go. Also going to warm up that brown a little bit. It's feeling a bit cold, so I'm going to add a little bit of red to that. So nice. Okay guys, so there you have it. Those are just a few basic skin tones. As I said, they're not all the skin tones of the world. They are just a selection of them, and you can experiment creating a range of different skin tones. It will be nice as well if you can leave a patch of white space on your testing paper here, so that you can write the title skin tones. You can write it in pencil if you like. Unlike me, please do try to wait for your paint to dry. Just writing it in with pencil. And that's it for the skin tones and the tints and tones page. This will actually help you guys in the future if you're doing portraits, and in fact the following week, next week, we are going to be using a skin tone in one of our paintings, so this is really leading on to that progression.